Yo guys, Coach Theo here on Common Sense. Rare seated video outside today because I don't quite dare to stand or walk around as I'll be bringing this guy around with me. For a few days I'll be chilling with this guy and he's quite jacked, quite strong, and he likes to pull me and yank me all over the place. So being safe, sitting here talking to you guys about high intensity training today in the style of Mike Mentzer. And so I'm going to be giving some takes on that and related things. But I first just want to say that this is a video that I would never have made if it wasn't for you guys asking. Many of you guys have been asking what I think about Mike Mentzer's style. And just want you to know that, guys, that of course I have many original ideas for things I talk about on this channel. But many things you say trigger me to some of my own ideas. But also I do listen. And if I get the question repeatedly, it's very likely that I'm gonna follow up on it. So just know, guys, you can influence a lot what's going on the Uncommon Sense channel. But okay, before, I kind of know what Mike Mentzer's training approach looked like from before, but I tried to look into it a little bit here before, but I got slightly different things in different places. But to my understanding, what it is that he would take his sets like to failure or beyond, but he would do very low volume and frequency. So very few sets per muscle and not even training the muscle very frequently. But what he did at a super high intensity. And so what I would say, I probably said in the title that this is not optimal or something like that. What you have to understand is that, of course, Mike Mentzer was extremely impressive. We got very far, and what he was doing was working for him. But you know, many of these guys at the top of enhanced bodybuilding, like even if it was natural, but of course it isn't, because now there are enhancements, so most competitive bodybuilding is enhanced. But no matter what, the guys at the top, those are rarely the ones we want to like completely take after. Like, we can get a lot of good advice from them, but it's rarely the people we should copy like exactly what they do, because they are outliers in some sense. So I am a huge fan of training at a high intensity. It's something I've done since I started training. I basically took everything to fail, and I very quickly implemented things like drop sets and other intensity techniques when you keep going when you reached failure. Like with your first weight and form, you approach an exercise, you reach fail, and either do some adjustment to the exercise so you can keep going, or you just lower the weight if it's a weight you can easily lower the weight on, right? And I love this. And if I had to pick, you know, like what I would tell most people that go to the gym is not that you need to do more volume, it would rather be you need to train harder, because there are so many people in the gym that, you know, they go through an entire workout, they do a decent amount of exercises, maybe even good exercises, decent amount of sets, but their intensity is just not high enough to stimulate any adaptation. So a lot of just regular gym goers would actually benefit from just decreasing their volume and really completely smashing what it is that they're doing. However, if we're talking about what's best, you know, it's just not going to be doing like one set, two or beyond failure per body part, or like for an exercise that you just do one super intense set. Because look, guys, that first set, if it is to failure, that's going to be responsible for the majority of the gains you make on a workout. Like, if you do 3 sets and all were to fail, the first one is going to be responsible for the most gains. However, it's quite clear in the literature, yes, I will be referencing science, nothing specific, but from what I've seen when I look into the science, it is like, yes, a higher intensity is better than a lower one, but even at a higher intensity, more volume than like the minimum amount of volume is also more beneficial. So I'll tell you about my approach, that I've had a very similar approach for many years now, is that I train to or close to failure. I've trained to failure so much that I can this is a problem for a lot of people that haven't trained hard enough. They think they're training harder than they do, because they haven't trained to failure, actual failure, enough to know what that feels like for them and their body on certain exercises. But I've done it so much that I unless it's like sometimes on like a bench press in a low rep range, you could be like, I'm like right in between being able to do another rep or not. But generally, I can take sets to 0 reps in reserve, and I don't have to fail the next rep because I just know that I will. So this is what I will generally do. And typically, for most exercises, I will do 3 working sets, that all of them are to fail or 0 reps in reserve. But for every exercise that I think it makes sense, I will do some kind of drop set intensity technique, Mike Mentzer style, on the 3rd set. So I'm just making up an example now, say I do a triceps push down, start out. I'm going to talk a bit about the form too, because me and Mike Mentzer, we do have some things in common. So I do triceps push down, I have a strict form that I push to fail twice, and when I do it the 3rd time, now I will actually lower the weight by 20 to 30%, go for 3 or 4 more reps, lower the weight with another like 30%, and do the same, right? And just as I saw now when I just looked into it before, is that even when training at a high intensity, it doesn't mean just completely butchering the exercise. And this is something I love about the high. When I do a set, when I know I'm training like really hard, I'm pushing this really hard. However, I'm also using a lot of mental strength to not cheat, to perform the exercise in a very specific way. Like on certain compounds and stuff, it's like just brute forcing it is going to be the right way to do it. But especially when you're like trying to isolate and target something more specifically, you can't just smash the set. You have to have an intention in the way you smash the set, right? And there's just something about taking a set to failure when like I took it to failure with this form, right? If I just let myself go, I could have kept going with some kind of sloppy form that doesn't really train what I'm trying to train, right? But so I think the approach me and Mike Mentzer have to our sets is very similar. It's just that I don't quite understand why we should go for this very low volume and frequency. More the frequency in that case than the volume, because I think if you stimulate the muscle enough with the intensity and volume, it's not that you have to train it super soon again or anything, but I would just like to, for most individuals, add some volume. But I'll say when I think this is, because I would just say that I don't think this approach to training, high intensity, low volume, low frequency, is optimal for almost anyone except outliers, right? And the question is though, just because it worked well for an outlier, it could have worked even better maybe to bring in some extra volume. But when do I think this is a good option? Well, it is for the person that wants to make good gains but spend little time on it, because that's what I'd say. I think you can build quite an impressive physique with quite short workouts where you just do one set to fail. Like that's going to take you very far. I notice there are certain exercises I do this at, like neck. It hasn't been, when I really focused on neck when I started training it, I would do 3 working sets for the front and for the back. Now, for instance, I've just worked up to 1 top set because I'm not like focusing on it as much. I'm still noticing that I can make progress from this though, right? And I'm quite advanced, like maybe not as advanced with the neck as the rest of my body. But you see, my point is that while I don't think it's optimal, and you could make like larger leaps of progress forward if you added some more volume, I think pushing that intensity is the way to stimulate. Like if you want to stimulate an adaptation with a minimum work, it's going to be from super high intensity, right? So just for an individual that isn't a fitness coach online and can spend so much time on it, someone that just is looking to build decent strength and physique, spending as little time on it as possible, for that person this for sure is a good approach. However, funny thing is that I'm not sure that most of those people would even be able to do it, because that's something I noticed, that pushing themselves hard, that's something a lot of people have a hard time doing, and I just see it in conflict a little bit. Someone going to the gym not often, doing very little in there, but managing to push themselves as hard. So that's I would probably want to do something else and make sure that I know how to train hard first, and then I try something like this. Like okay, 3 workouts that probably don't have to be longer than like 40 minutes per week or something, completely smashing 1 set on every exercise, and then just see how far that can take me. And I'll say this also, this is what I do. This is something I can do when I either deload or I am under time pressure. Again, because I work with this and I structure my days so that I, like, if there isn't something out of the ordinary, I should have good time to train, right? But of course, sometimes I travel or schedule is hectic for whatever reason. And then it's kind of like, I will do my typical workout, I'll just reduce the amount of sets. I'll just do that one super intense set, because that's the majority of the work anyway, right? I don't have to do that a little extra gains for the extra. And that's also how I do sometimes when I deload, you know, when I don't feel like, oh, I'm so wrecked that I can't train hard at all. But there could be an idea with dialing it back and just recovering a bit more. Well, I'll just smash one. I'll do 3 workouts that I approach like this, you know, with just one set that's quite intense. Because also for me, because I like to train at a high intensity, I'm a huge fan of it. Like I say, it's just I wouldn't prefer this low frequency, low volume approach, but it's a way I like to train. So it's just easier for me to deload someone like myself that actually has a hard time with holding back sometimes. If I get to, you know, take myself out a lot in at least one set, then I can find some satisfaction. It's much more difficult for me to just keep doing sets that are kind of like, I don't know, 60%, just like, there's a strange feeling for me to just re-rack a bar or put down some dumbbells and it's like, yeah, I was nowhere near my maximum, you know. But there you go, guys. I think I would say the way Mike Mentzer performed his sets, I'm a huge fan of. I am a huge fan of high intensity. I would just say that for most people, it would be a good idea to up the volume and frequency. And it would fit for some individuals, either for like myself, when you have that, like you time pressure or you want to deload a little bit, or if you are that kind of person that just doesn't want to spend too much time in the gym. However, I would just make sure that I am able to push myself this hard. And what you're gonna have to do, do so low volume, you always have to do this, guys, of course. So it doesn't hurt that I say this again, but you gotta make sure that progression is happening, you know. Like, be honest with yourself. Your sets here, like even if they feel intense, like are you seeing that you can keep adding reps and weights eventually between your workouts? Well, then you're good and you can make some good gains with this. It's probably just not going to be the optimal way if you want to take it further than like intermediate, okay? So please, guys, always interested to hear your comments. Tell me about your experiences. If you've tried I know there's a bunch of you guys that have. And comment anyway. It helps more people, you know, it supports the algorithm, helps more people find their way here, so it's very much appreciated. I do holistic bodybuilding coaching. We get jacked and stacked mentally, physically, spiritually, work on ourselves, body, mind, and soul. So if you are interested, you can send me a DM on Instagram or email me. It's in the description below, and I'll get back to you and tell you about my different programs. You can buy my bodybuilding book if you just want Coach Theo's ideas. I'm doing my best to coach you through the book. You can pick that up to also support me. I would love it. And if you just want to support me and my content and the Uncommon Sense channel, you can become a Patreon or a member of the channel or leave a little super thanks comment. It's very much appreciated, guys. And please subscribe for more content about fitness, fasting, losing weight, building ourselves, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys. High intensity is great, but so is, you know, do a bit few more sets. Okay, peace.